Hello guys, welcome. This is Deepika from mytutorialrack.com and I'm bringing to you another interview question related to our Java interview preparation course. And the question is, when can you use super keyword? You probably have seen the usage of super. Basically, you can use the super keyword in order to call the members or attributes or methods of the parent class inside of your child class. So if you have a class which is the parent, and then if you have a child class which extends from this parent class, and if you wanted to access any variables or any methods of the parent class inside of the child, you can use this super keyword. Super keyword can be used to invoke the parent class constructor. It can be used to invoke the variables of the parent class. It can also be used to invoke the methods of the parent class. So let's go through the theory, and then we will also see an example where we will use the super keyword. Okay, so the super keyword is used to access the fields and the methods or attributes of the parent class. Okay, so if you want to access anything of the parent class inside of your child class, then you can use the super keyword. Let's say in the parent class you have defined a variable called num and you have a method called foo, let's say. And in the child class also you have a variable called num and then a method called foo. Now if you want to call the parent class foo, how will you do that? So you can use this super.foo method and it will call the parent class foo's method. Okay, following are the cases when this keyword can be used. So accessing the data members of the parent class when the member names of the class and its child class subclasses are same. So if you have declared a variable where the name of the variable is exactly the same as what we have in the child class, in that case super will be used to invoke the parent class variable to call the default and parameterized constructor of the parent class inside of the child. So but make sure the super should be the first line when you are calling inside of your constructor. Super constructors should be called first, means parent class constructor should be called first and then your child class constructor should get called. Okay, you cannot just add the super line anywhere in your code. You have to make sure when you are defining your constructor of the child class, super is the first line that you have to write in order to invoke the parent class. If you need to, you don't have to, but if you need to, then super has to be the first line in your constructor. Accessing the parent class methods when the child class have overridden them. So if you want to access the parent class, then you can also use the super. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our example here. So I have in my Eclipse here, I have created a class called parent. Inside of this parent class, I have defined a variable which is the name is equals to num and the value of the variable is 1. And this is your parent class constructor, and all it is saying is parent class default constructor. And then you have defined another constructor in the parent class, which is parent string x. It takes in one parameter and it prints this parameterized constructor. And then you have defined a method called foo. Now this is your parent class. Now let's go over to the child. So in the child class, you have defined the same variable with the same name num, but you are providing the value equals to 2. So the parent class has a value of 1 and child class has a value of 2. Now child class constructor. So super is the first statement. Super constructor call should always be in the first line. You always have to remember. Okay, so now if you want to call the default constructor, then this can be written. But if you want to call the parameterized constructor of the parent class, it takes in its string parameter. So this is going to call the parameterized constructor of your parent class. Okay. Then you are calling, you have just printing this line child class default constructor. Okay. Then you have defined a new method which doesn't exist in the parent, but it exists only in the child, which is called print num, and it is going to print the value of num. So which num will get printed? We have two nums. One is defined in the parent class and the other one is defined in the child class. So which num will be called here? In this case, the num of the child will be invoked. And if you have to call the num from the parent, then you will be saying super dot of num. Then you will be saying super dot of num. So he can say something like num value from child, and similarly we will say num value from the parent. Okay, this is going to be from the parent. And here you're using super keyword and then dot of num. So this is going to call your parent class num variable. Okay. Then you are overriding the foo method because foo method is already declared here, and here is your child's foo method. So you're overriding it and you're saying child class foo, and then you are calling the super dot of foo. So super doesn't have to be the first line in the method, but anytime you want to call the parent class constructor, you have to first line in that case should be this. Here you are calling the foo method from the from the parent class by using super dot of foo. And it is going to say parent class foo. Now let's look at our main method. So in the main method, all I'm doing is I'm creating an object of the child class, and I'm doing demo object dot of foo. Okay. Demo object dot of foo, and then let's go ahead and look at what is going to get executed. So when we say demo object dot of foo, at this point, when we say this one, our child class constructor, the default constructor, will get called, right? So the first statement would be call the parent super class. So it will come here. The execution because of this line that you have written, this particular line, this line number 6, when you are saying child demo object is equals to new of child, it calls the constructor, right? And you have defined a constructor in your child class, which is this one. And when it comes, the execution comes here, it sees the first line as super call parent. Okay, so here it's going to call the parent class parameterized constructor. So first line that is going to get printed is going to be this. This is going to be the first line. Then again, once it has done, it comes to the next line, which will say child class default constructor. So first it will be parameterized constructor of the parent will get printed on the screen. Then this next would be the child class default constructor will be printed on the screen. And then the call comes about the foo. So foo here, if it comes here, it will be child class foo, and then you are calling the parent class foo. So this is going to get printed. So the order should be 1, number 1 should be this, number 2 line would be this, number 3 is this, and number 4 is going to be this. Now let's see if our assumption is correct. We are going to run as Java application. And yes, we are correct. Parent class parameterized constructor, child class default constructor, child class foo, and parent class foo. Now, if you want to call this print num method, let's say we call this print num also here, and we will say demo object dot of print num. Let's see what happens. Now, up till here, everything is clear. Now, when you call print num, it will print the num value from the child, which is 2. And then num value from the parent, which is 1, super dot of num. That's what I'm expecting. So first would be 2, and then this one would be 1. Now let's go ahead and run as a Java application. And we are absolutely right. Num value from child is 2 and num value from parent is 1. I hope the understanding about the super has been super clear. And let me just recap here one more time. So super can be used to invoke the members, the methods, the attributes of the parent class inside of your child class. If you want to call the parent class constructor inside of the child class, the first statement should be that. The first statement should be the super. But in any other places, you can call super in any order. Super can be used to call the variables of the parent class. Super can also be used to call the method of the parent class. Okay, that is the purpose of the super keyword. I hope you guys are enjoying these tutorials, and I'm going to see you in the next tutorial with another interview question. So stay tuned for that, and thank you very much. God bless you.